Well, that was Alice Patino, our only city council woman in Santa Maria, who believes in safety, but she voted to poison our water, in my opinion, with fluoride. And by the way, did I mention today that if you're tired of Gray Davis and Bill Simon, you could vote for Gary Copeland. I think I might have forgot that, so I just want to put that unbiased opinion in there. It's just as unbiased as the justice we get from some rulings from this city council. With me now is Colleen Sterne. Welcome to On Second Thought, Colleen.
Nice to see you, William. I'm glad that I was able to come.
Yeah, this is going out all over Lompoc, all northern Santa Barbara County, Colleen, and I had your adversary, Brian Hill, on about 2 weeks ago, and I wanted to get you on, and you were busy working as an attorney.
Yes.
And so you couldn't make it that time, so this is my time to get you to ask some questions. When did you become a lawyer? First of all, what year?
1988 is when I passed the bar.
And did you graduate in Bolt Hall or someplace else?
No, actually, I went to Santa Barbara's local law school.
Oh, really?
I did. You know,
that little private law school?
I've had an experience that is a lot like a lot of your viewers and a lot of people in the real world. I got out of college and worked in a different field for a while, realized that law was really my primary interest. And at the time I went back to school, it was necessary for me to continue to work full-time. So I went to law school in the evening, and then when I graduated, became a full-time attorney.
Well, it takes a lot of focus.
But I enjoyed it. You know, I remember those years as some of the happiest of my life. It was really challenging and wonderful.
Well, good. If you just surfed in, I'm William Wagener. You're watching Channel 22 on Second Thought. I'm here with Colleen Sterne. She's on your ballot, people. When you look down through all the judicial candidates on your Santa Barbara ballot, you will find a race here for Superior Court, and there's two, and you get to write in. There's two. There's one, Brian Hill, and we're here with Colleen K. Sterne. You've probably seen her signs all over the place, as well as Hill. And this is our chance to ask her some questions. And one question I want to ask you, because sometimes I hear judges say, the Constitution has no place in my courtroom. Have you ever read the Constitution?
Of course I've read the Constitution.
Have you noticed the amendments change things considerably in over 200 years? Do you think the Constitution has any validity in the courtroom?
Well, I think the Constitution has validity in the courtroom, but it has to be read in light of the amendments to it.
Okay. Do you believe that our government should be held accountable for their misdoings?
Well, when you say government,
I'm talking about federal government.
You know, I think that all persons in public life and all instruments of public life, whether they're federal, state, or any other government entity, should be held accountable. I mean, that is what our society is about.
Why wasn't President Reagan held accountable for the arms for drugs scandal with a South American country and Iran or whatever it was, and they were training? He had that little deal pulled off with some colonel from the Army or the Air Force, and there's no accountability. And he was never impeached. He was never brought to a trial. Do you have any thoughts on that? Or were you not aware of it when it happened?
Well, no, of course I was aware of it, and, you know, we have to take a tiny little sideline here, which is under the Elections Code and under the judicial canons. There are certain restraints on judges as to what they can talk about, and to get into the merits of that probably wouldn't be an appropriate discussion for us to have. But philosophically, in terms of whether or not different strata in our society are treated by the law in the same way, that's an interesting philosophical discussion, and, you know, I think that the answer to that is no, that, you know, I don't think it's simply a truism that those who are more well-heeled sometimes get a fairer shake by our system, and I think most people wouldn't argue also that people of color often don't get as fair a shake. So, you know, are different people treated differently under our system? Unfortunately, yes.
I have to agree. There's a guy, I don't think you ever heard of him. His name was Cubby. He had a special kind of cancer, and a doctor literally told him, unless you take a specific type of marijuana, you will die from this pancreatic cancer, because it's the only thing that stops it from progressing and actually reverses. His name was Cubby. He ran for governor as the Libertarian candidates, and he campaigned very hard for decriminalization of medical marijuana, strictly for medical purposes. The government then arrested him right after the election, put him and his wife on trial, destroyed their business, destroyed their life, terrorized their two little children, and he's now living in Canada. We've got over 600,000 people sitting in prison for simple possession or personal use of marijuana. Philosophically speaking, not what you would do as a judge, because I know you probably can't answer that as a judge.
That's right.
But philosophically speaking, don't you think that's stupid?
Well, philosophically speaking, the direction I like to take this discussion has to do with whether or not the majority of drug issues are a public health problem or the majority of drug issues are a legal problem. I'm very much in favor of alternative sentencing for substance abuse, and I'm very much in favor of diversion for substance abuse. I'm very much in favor of treatment of the whole family when you have issues of multi-generational criminal behavior or multi-generational substance abuse. These things are very important. But when, unfortunately, there is still the matter of when substance abuse intersects with violent behavior or other criminal behavior. And that's really where my tolerance stops, is where people are engaging in criminal conduct, violent behavior. Now, you know.
So you're suggesting that philosophically, you would think it's stupid for our government to keep arresting pot smokers if all they're doing is smoking pot and they're growing their own, they're not bothering anybody, they're not driving. I don't like them driving and smoking marijuana any more than I like them driving and drinking alcohol.
Well, you know, that's...
Or on a cell phone. I hate these women driving down all over the road and they're on their cell phone. I think I would like to have been a judge and hauled this one gal who nearly hit me.
Well, you know, the thing
on a cell phone.
The thing you have to remember about judicial candidates, though, William, is that all of these things, the kind of things you talk about, there may be an automobile accident case that I will handle that involves someone using a cell phone. Certainly when I'm sitting as a criminal law judge, which I anticipate will happen at some point during my career as a judge, all of these kinds of matters in terms of administrating and ruling on these individual laws have a very high likelihood of coming into my courtroom.
So you can't answer that
And that's
question.
where I have to draw the line. Although,
All right.
you know, like it is with all judicial candidates, you can look at people's background, look at who their support and their endorsement comes from, and that can help the voters understand.
Have you worked as a judge pro tem?
Yes.
How many years?
8.
8 years?
8. I've been a volunteer in small claims court for that long, and you know, I really consider that to be a very, very interesting and important type of experience. In that setting, I've ruled on hundreds of cases. I've had to keep control of a courtroom that's far tougher, in my experience, than one full of lawyers, because you have, you know, pro per litigants who don't know a lot about the court procedure, and so keeping that a calm and appropriate judicial tone to that proceeding is challenging. And also, there's something about the importance of the proceeding to the people who are there. Many times people who are in small claims court, that $500 or $2,500 or $5,000 that they're litigating over may be far more important to them than the $150,000 that someone's litigating over in Superior Court. So you're also dealing with people's strong feeling and dealing with the necessity to listen to people whose arguments are sometimes unartful or not as articulate, and being a good listener and being firm when it's appropriate, but also being compassionate when it's appropriate, and ruling in accordance with law, which is always the bottom line.
If there's no violence involved, philosophically, in a family court where people, the best people, I heard Judge Melville say this once when he was talking to the grand jury, the best people, you will see them at their worst in family court, and it's dangerous. But the worst people, the real hard criminals, will be at their best behavior in criminal court. And it was Judge Melville's opinion this day. I was sitting in and watching what he was talking to this proposed grand jury group. I think it was a grand jury group. That the best people are on their worst behavior in family court. But if there is no violence involved, or provable violence, anything to show you there's violence, should restraining orders be thrown out like popcorn, like cotton candy, just to keep dad away from seeing his kids? Is that appropriate, philosophically speaking now? Because I know you can't.
Well, and philosophically speaking, there's sometimes more to it than that. Family situations can be very complicated. And I'm reluctant to make pronouncements about family situations in the absence of facts. This is what family law judges have to do. They have to be people who can listen. They have to be people who can absorb the high level of emotional content that is present in those kinds of proceedings and deal with it, and rule in each case as is appropriate in that case based on the facts and on the law. I am not a person who has preconceived notions about the fitness of one gender of parent over another or anything of that nature. I like to think that I'm a person who can take people as individuals, take them as they come.
Very good. That's an excellent answer. Caught me totally off guard. Colleen Sterne, we're sitting here with, in case you didn't realize it, we're at a point, in 20 years there has never been a race for Superior Court where one or the other wasn't already the incumbent by appointment. You've got a race here against Colleen Sterne, sitting here with us on Second Thought, and Brian Hill, who was here 2 or 3 weeks ago, who was a assistant prosecutor, still is, I think, in Santa Barbara County, and loves to put bad guys away. And I asked him, how about the people who are not so bad? They just got caught in a bad situation, but they really aren't so bad. I don't remember his answer, but I hope you do, because this is a chance. You may be sitting in Colleen Sterne's court, so this is a chance to pay attention and make an informed vote. And that's what I try to do, is get you to have second thoughts. And I guess I really can't ask you about any Supreme Court justice, how you would vote on that, because you probably haven't practiced in front of them, and it'd be inappropriate for you.
It would be inappropriate.
And it might go bad for you if you had an opinion that went up to them and you'd said something they didn't like.
Well, I'm less concerned about that than I am simply about the fact that it's inappropriate.
Okay. Well, Colleen, I want to give you 1 minute here. Look into the camera and tell the voters why they should vote for Colleen Sterne for judge.
Well, this is a very, very important judicial election. As William said, it's really kind of a groundbreaker because there hasn't been one like it in many, many years. And the voters have a very clear choice between the two candidates. I am a career civil attorney who has plenty of courtroom experience. But being a judge is about much more than that. And being a judge is more about putting criminals away, although that's a critically important part of the court's job. And I pledge to be a person who is a very zealous and cautious guardian of public safety. But that said, we need to remember all of the other things that we ask the courts to do, from determining the custody of children and of incompetent adults and all the business and other litigation that is done. So the verb that's most often used about judges is that they sit. And what I pledge to the voters of this county is that I don't just want to sit on the bench. I want to work with the bench, and I want to be an informed and good judge for the community.
Thank you very much, Colleen Sterne, for being with us. This is William Wagener on Second Thought. See you next week.